So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, everybody. Oh, what's going on? Where's Paddy? There he is. And I don't know why that ended so quickly there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. I'm not centered. I'm going to get into the center here. I think that's a bit better. Yeah, I think that's a bit better. Now, anyway, now we've got that production value, that brilliant production value that everybody comes here for out of the way. Welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Apologies, we're a small bit late. I dragged myself away. I was watching Pulp at Glastonbury. I'm a huge Pulp fan, and one of the best bands I've ever seen live. But Paddy was watching something that probably wasn't as enjoyable as me watching Jarvis Cocker prance around the stage there. So apologies for us being late again tonight. But Paddy, it is brilliant to have you back on. I feel like if I spoke to you like once since the Man United game. Because I probably have only spoke to you once since then.
You probably don't want to talk to me since the United game. The way I've been feeling, to be honest. Oh, look, it's good to be back. It's good to be looking forward to getting next Monday night out of the way and talking about signings instead of money and all that kind of stuff. So looking forward to seeing that 12 o'clock deadline on Monday night. Ask whether it was doing something stupid or selling something stupid, because we honestly don't know. Nobody knows really what we've got to do apart from some experts speculating. So, you know me, I prefer to talk about football than talk about money. Unfortunately, money has become a huge part of what the Premier League is about, because they let it get out of hand and they let everything go pear-shaped, let's say. And now they're trying to catch up and keep the big boys up at the top. And they're doing a good job at it. But sure, that's life. We won't go down that road tonight. We'll answer the questions that the good listeners have sent in.
Excellent. Yeah, and guys, just actually a small bit of I don't know whether I want to call it an announcement or not, but I'm going to give the live phone-in show a go. Might as well. But it is the amount of trust I need to put in you guys not to make any not to go rogue when we do something like that. But I do trust you guys, so keep an eye out on Twitter and stuff for that. I did tease it the last time. I was thinking I might do it, but I'm going to give it a go, because I think there could be value in it, as long as people show constraint. I won't have the 7-second delay or dump button though, unfortunately, like they do have on proper radio. But I will have a hang up and ban button. So I think it might be very zero tolerance, but we'll give it a go. Keep an eye on that. Coming into maybe next week, we might have a phone-in show and see how that one goes. But look, it'll be a bit of crack, if nothing else. Hopefully, it'll be a bit of crack. But yeah, Paddy, as you were saying, the reason I said that, should I say, is that, you know, whatever does come out, it'd be nice to get kind of in the moment reactions from people. I love the comments people put in here, and not everybody can phone in for stuff like that. So having the comments is really good. But obviously, comments don't give you the full context of somebody's point that they're making. So if somebody did have the opportunity or the option to call us in, and it would be free to call in, obviously. We're not going to be like, what is it, club call or anything like that, where we're charging you $4.78 per second, you know, for calling in. All you probably need to do is download WhatsApp, and we could do it that way. Potentially, we might even look at doing it through Discord, so we could queue people up. But we'll explain the bones of it anyway by the time we get to it, maybe next week. But yeah, as I say, get Monday out of the way, and still in the dark about what's going to happen. And before we get to the questions that we have, Paddy, this time last year, you remember back, the club were paddling left, right, centre. There was Tim-Eric Boonham, there was Omari Kellyman, there was Douglas Luiz. All those deals had gone through this time last year to satisfy the arbitrary number that the Premier League came up with. We've not had a single one this year, and the club seemed to be pretty graceful about the whole thing, not panicking. Are we led to believe that, like, would you take that as a sign that it's just going to be a case whereby they're probably just going to come up with 30th and say we've sold the women's team or something along those lines?
Well, like as I said there at the start, nobody knows. Like, we've had speculation, but nobody knows exactly what needs to be balanced. Nobody seems to know anyway. So we'll just have to wait till Monday night and see if there's an Omari Kellyman or something like that happening. I expected to see Leon Bailey out the door before the 30th. That could still happen. If that's enough, I don't know. Nobody seems to know what exactly what the shortfall is. So we've just got to trust that the guys know what they're doing. If we get an announcement at 11 o'clock on Monday night that V Sports have acquired the Aston Villa women's team, then we know. Then we know there was a shortfall and it needed to be plugged. But I'm just of the opinion now that, I'm still very hurt over the end of the season and what happened and how it came about and how it's affecting our transfer market and dealings for this season, that I haven't really thought about the money end of it. And and I trust the people who are there to do things right and to balance the books correctly. So it's the least of my worries now. My worries is that we've gone back a year because I'm not getting to the Champions League again. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, we would be to back-to-back Champions League would have been huge, both for our bank balance and for the people who we attract to our club. And I think a lot of people have overlooked the fact that there's a few people got away with murder. Players, referees, PGMOL over the back end of that season. Players making silly mistakes, making rash decisions, costing us big time. And it could affect us for the next 12 months. So let's see what happens with Monday night, and we'll worry about it after then, because we will be given an indication by the club by Monday night to whether they feel we've done enough to comply with all the rules and regulations that are in there now. And I presume they're just going to take a fine on the squad cost ratio thing from UEFA, which is what they did last year. They can't continue to do that, obviously, because there will eventually be sanctions to people who continuously break it. But for now, I'm not too worried about the Monday night, because we know the safety net is there of selling the women's club, and that's probably what will happen if it needs to happen.
Yeah, look. So my thoughts on it are the Louis Barry to Hull thing might get over the line. Ken Kessler and Hayden thing might get over the line. I suppose, look, if you were to bring in 12 to 15 million from that, you could probably, maybe that might does it. Maybe that might does it. Maybe that does it. Maybe, like, if you were to get, I don't know what the rumor prices are. I think it's 8.5 for Louis Barry, which to me seems pretty low, and like 5 million for Ken Kessler Hayden. You're talking 13.5 million there. Maybe that does it. Maybe it does. I don't know. But yeah, as I say, Monday will let us know everything. Look, at the end of the day as well, a lot of times paper never refused ink when it comes to discussion. And with Aston Villa being the only PSR game really in town this year, because because we are the ones that are in most need of, like, if Leicester had stayed up, it probably would have been, everything would have been about them this year because of the hole they would have been in. So I think it's just a case of, write a PSR story there, please, people. And then they go, oh yeah, Aston Villa probably are in difficulty. And they are, but we don't know how much they're in difficulty. So let's just write about them. And I think that's really why Aston Villa are the ones that are in the news about that quite a lot. Like, we knew, like I said it after the season, there was going to be next night or no business done before the 30th of June. Because of the PSR side of things. I think potentially, Paddy, as well, because the squad cost ratio is done on last year as opposed to this year, we're not going to be anywhere near the 96 with the revenue that we have, because it's squad cost ratio as in wages to the revenue. So and that revenue will include sales. Obviously, there will be deductions done and stuff. There's formulaic evaluations of trades and stuff like that as well. So, but I think we're probably better off in that aspect for next year, for next year from a European point of view than we were in the year gone past, just because of all the extra revenue that we brought in as well, and what that will do. Obviously, I would imagine we've brought in more revenue than we have with additional wages for contracts and stuff like that as well. So again, we'll know all this in the coming days, and we could spend the next 20 minutes talking about, but neither of the two of us really like that. So let's get on to one of the other questions that we've gotten through here. I'm going to start with the ones on Twitter like I did the last time. Paddy, we got one here. What are your thoughts on the reports that Emi Martinez was talking to United as long ago as January? And if I'll just paraphrase what Ronan says here because I can't share it on the screen, but would you want, if he was to stay, would you be happy with him staying?
Personally, as things stand right now, I think if he doesn't go before Monday evening, he's not going anywhere. He's still under contract. He's still a valuable, one of the most valuable players we have, and I just can't see a world where he wants to try and replace Emi Martinez going into the new season. We need stability. We need players sticking around. All we have to go on is a lot of speculation, a lot of talk in the press, an awful lot of rubbish talk at that. And the fact that he had tears in his eyes on the last day of the season at home. That's all we have to go on. Now, he's an emotional character. Some people say, yeah, he was just emotional over the whole thing and, you know, winning all those games and putting ourselves in that position. But for me, I think he would fall into a category of a player we must not sell. If he goes, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. But replacing him is going to be the most difficult task Emery will have in his time at Aston Villa, because how do you replace? Like, we know he hasn't had the best of seasons, but for the first 4 years of his life at Aston Villa, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And even at that, he had some phenomenal moments last year, especially in the Champions League, where he was absolutely unbelievable and pulled off some amazing saves throughout the season. But then again, had a few brain farts as we saw against Manchester United on the last day of the season. But I just don't see, unless we're in a world where we have to sell him before Monday, I don't see Emery selling him, because we just have to keep our best players and build a team around them, and that includes Kamara, who a few people have mentioned in the comments as well. I do believe that Kamara will sign a new contract. I believe that will happen. But there's a few things that need to happen in the meantime. We need to get the likes of Emi Buendia off the books. We need to get Felipe Coutinho off the books. Then Donker. A couple others escape my mind at the moment. The two guys that you mentioned, Louis Barry and Kane Kessler-Hayden, are obviously surplus to requirements. They haven't done enough to force their way into the plans. So let's see what happens in the next week or so, because if it's a case that Emi does want to go, he will go early, because we will need to get the money in and get his replacement signed up. Who he signs would be an absolute minefield, because who's out there realistically that can be even fit enough to lace his boots? I just don't know. I would really struggle if we sold him, to be honest. And let's not forget, that would mean we'd have to sign 2 goalkeepers in this window, because unless he trusts Joe Gauchi to come in and do a job, which I doubt at this stage. But at the moment, we're going to need to sign goalkeepers, because regardless of whether Emi stays or goes, first 3 matches of next season, we're going to have our sub goalkeeper in goal because he's suspended. Yeah. Although somebody did say during the week there's only 1 game he's suspended for. I don't know how that works. But a straight red card for me was always 3 games, so he's obviously got to take that into the next season.
Yeah, I think this.
Have you?
What was that? Am I muted? No, I'm not. I
got you. You froze there for a minute. So.
Okay, I don't know what. Sorry, I'm off. There's stuff flashing up here in front of me, so it could be something to do with that. I don't know what the criteria is for him being suspended for the coming season. To be honest with you, it's not It's not something I need to worry about until the start of August anyway. But you did mention about 2 goalkeepers coming in, about somebody replacing him. I think that my view on Emi Martinez is want him to stay. I think that the 30th of June is the watershed moment for him. If he's not gone by the 30th, I think he stays. But I also think that the goalkeeper that's coming in, and there was a link today with a guy that whose name that is just absolutely escaped me, from Royal Antwerp. But let me bring his name up here. Where is he gone? Where is he gone? Where is he gone? This is what you all guys all come for. Sene Lamens, yeah, the Sene Lamens, 22-year-old Belgian goalkeeper. We were linked with him today. Just go and look at what that guy's statistics and stuff like. I haven't done a whole pile of watching. I've watched a bit, but every single scouting account on Twitter seems to literally rave about this guy. Maybe they bring in somebody like that. He sits underneath Emi Martinez for a year, and Emi goes next year. If we don't get Champions League football, I probably think that after the 30th, that's the smart thing to do. I think that is the smart thing to do. Like, they're not going to bring in Lucas Chevalier and have him sit behind Emi Martinez. But I think if Martinez does go before the 30th of June, that they will bring in this Chevalier. I think that's the guy they've earmarked. And if he doesn't go, I think we're on borrowed time with him regardless. Unless we get into the Champions League next year again. So for me, it's a case of don't fall in love with people too much over the next 12 months, specifically Emi Martinez. But it's interesting. A lot of people say that he had a poorer season this year than he did last year. I just took a flick through just his league form and his league statistics. And once again, I'm not saying statistics are the forebearer of all, but I'd never done that. And he actually had a statistically better season than he did last year. But the eye test shows he did throw in a couple of clangers last year, and that's what we all remember, and rightly so, specifically that last game of the season. So that's Emi Martinez. I know that's going to be, look, as I say, he's going to be a hot topic until... Go on,
just before we go on, the one aspect of that question that I didn't answer was him going to Manchester United. Him going to Manchester United with no European football this season doesn't stack up for me, for a fella who's that ambitious to win trophies. He never struck me as a guy who needed the money or was ever about money. So from that point of view, it seems really, really odd to be linked with Manchester United. But who am I to second guess what's going on in his head? That's just my opinion on it. If he's given up a European campaign with Aston Villa to sign for a team that just finished outside the relegation zone with no European football next year, something. But if that's the case, I'll kick him on the arse on the way out the door. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah. I don't think I could ever forgive him. And I have a long history of not forgiving players that have gone up the M6 to Manchester United, and to a lesser extent Liverpool and Stuart Downing's case. But the likes of Dwight York and Mark Bosnich, Ashley Young, Jack Grealish, to a certain extent, I've found very hard to forgive. But it would be even harder to forgive someone going to Manchester United without European football. And let's face it, the whole place is a fucking shit show at the moment. So what would drive him there is absolutely beyond me, unless it's an absolute truckload of cash, which is also possible because they love to throw cash at people up there.
It would be. That's what it would be, and the allure of getting them back off the ground again, I suppose. Paddy, quiz time. I mentioned statistics about Emiliano Martinez there a moment ago. Martinez, sorry, I should really pronounce it. I started calling him Emi Martinez as a bit of a joke because when he very, very first signed, and it's just stuck because I know his name is Martinez, and I was on TalkSport with Dan Bardell yesterday, and I kept on I had to check myself and go, it's Martinez. I need to stop with this whole kind of, because I've wired my brain to call him Martinez. I'm not trying to do it on purpose, if anybody asks. But how many goals did first of all, how many games did Emiliano Martinez play last year? Sorry, in league, just the league. Because I think we can agree his Champions League form was very, very good.
So of the 38 games, I'm of the opinion that Robin Olsen played 3. One of them, he came on at half time. So I'm going to say 36.
Emiliano Martinez played 37 games last year, and Robin Olsen played in 4. So he came on as a substitute 3 times and started 1. How many goals did Emiliano Martinez concede last year? As in 2024-25, season just gone. I'm going by FB ref here now, guys.
68.
In the league only, he conceded 45, which seems low. I'm going by FB ref here, guys. So this is obviously Aston Villa have conceded more goals than that. So I think Olsen conceded like 7, if that is the case. So you can see by FB ref have here he has conceded 45. How many goals did he concede the year before? Sorry, how many games did he play the year before?
The year before he played a little bit less. I'm going to say 34.
He played 34. Well done. Yeah, played 34 last year. And how many goals did he concede last year? 2023, 2024.
If you're saying the statistics are better this year, I'm going to say 52.
He conceded 48 goals in 2023-24. He only conceded 45 this last year, and that's in the league. With a goals against per 90 last year in 23-24 of 1.43, and this year just gone 24-25 of 1.27. I would not in a bazillion thousand years have guessed that. Only I looked it up like 10 minutes before coming on the podcast. I would not have guessed that at all. Now, one thing I will say, like his save percentage went up from 23-24. It was 66.2%. In 24-25, it was 69%. And it was another piece that I was looking at as well. Yeah, so he's the XG of goals that he conceded as opposed to goals that should have been scored against him was. So goals that should have been scored against him the year previous was 50.6 and only 48 went in. This year was 45.8 and 45 went in. You know me now, my skepticism with regards to XG. I just thought that was interesting. There was one other piece there as well with regards to pass completion for him. And I think this is probably what makes me think as well that like last year in 23-24 he did an 82.9% pass completion. This year he did 78.7, and I think that for me was a noticeable difference for me, that like those balls out to Cash were being intercepted or going over his head and going out of play more this year than they were last year. And I think that is fair to say. Also, he had to go an awful lot longer this year as well than he did last year because he didn't play as much, as many short balls. He completed 248 short passes the year previous, 149 this year. He went long 223 times. He went long 452 times in 2023-24, and he attempted 542 long balls in last year. So he did his passing statistics, he did go longer and cut out a lot of the shorter stuff. But I was blown away by that. I would not have thought that. I didn't even think of looking it up because I just presumed that he would have had a statistically worse season last year. But once again, that is not to say that he played better last year, because in some instances we feel that, you know, he wasn't. It was at times that the chips were down, obviously against the Manchester United game, and that's fine. That's fair to say too. You know, so I can't really say to anybody that, Emi Martinez was as rock solid last year as he was the year before, which is fair.
But I think what also tarnishes all of those statistics that you're reading out, of the 45 they said he conceded.
45, yeah. 45. The shots on first shot on target.
Yeah, so nearly 40% of those goals came from the first shot on target. When you narrow it down, so that was the killer last season for him. It should have been a whole lot better. But we all know he's the last line of defense. It's not completely at his door when he's letting in the first shot on target. Exactly. Obviously, there's been mistakes. Yeah, and this is my 100,000,000,000% my justification for, and I said it as well on TalkSport too, that I think it's more important that we go heavy in signing at least 2 players in the attacking department and maybe one defender, because as Big Matthew says here, Villa scored 18 extra goals in 23-24, and we've to take out John Duran's goals
and Rashford's goals this year on top of that. So realistically speaking, from the 23-24 season, we're down 34 goals in and about as we stand right now than we were in the 23-24 season. So we need to find goals. Anyway, sorry, we've gone completely off topic there for this Q&A. But that's just a small bit of an interesting piece that I would not have thought before this. Anyway, let's move on to another question because we do have quite a lot of them. I'll come to that one probably last. Remind me to come to Ronan Farrell's second question last as well. We've kind of gone through the women's team one as well from Ronan. Paddy, what's your thoughts on the Club World Cup at the moment? Is it needless? This is from Flip Flop. He says, "Is it a needless cash grab? Would you feel different if Villa were in it?"
It's a needless cash grab. I've no other words for it. I have not watched one single game from this Club World Cup. I have zero interest. It's an invitational tournament as far as I'm concerned. Why some of the teams are in it is absolutely beyond me. Well, it's not beyond me. I know why they're in it because they generate money for FIFA and that's why they're in it. But it's a pointless tournament. And to a certain extent, I'm glad it's not something we're in because it's going, well, obviously, I'd love to be in it and I'd love to win it and get the 100 million bag of cash at the end because that's the only plus point to it I can see. But if you look at somebody who goes, say, for example, Manchester City get to the final. Hopefully they don't, or hopefully they get to the final and lose it and not get the big bag of cash. But if it's Manchester City, for example, or Chelsea, I would be worried from a fan's point of view going into the next season. Like we've got our non-internationals coming back training on Monday. That shows us how close we are to pre-season. Do you know what I mean? So I would not like Villa to be looking at their team without a break for close on 2 years, because let's face it, that's going to finish around the middle of July, is it? Or 10th or 12th of July, maybe. So who comes back?
We play Walsall the 16th of July, 18th of July, or 16th of July. You know, and I think the other teams are really up on that because there's another part of this question, Paddy, that I was going to throw at you afterwards. Do you think it's going to be an advantage to those teams that are playing in this at the start of the season? I don't know. That's the answer.
Well, somebody said this to me the other day, and I referenced the form of Ollie Watkins after coming back from the Euros last year, when he should have been at the absolute peak of his powers after scoring the goal to put his country into the final, and then came back and couldn't hit a barn door and couldn't get fit and didn't look fit. So I would not like our whole team to be away for the whole summer heading into a Premier League programme, which, when this is over, is less than 60 days away from the end of the tournament to the start of the Premier League. That's not enough time for a break. Our internationals will probably be back on grass for us in 2 weeks' time after the Walsall game, I would imagine, heading into the trip to the likes of Rostock and that. They'll all be back for that. But players need to rest. The whole thing has just gone bonkers, and it's just getting later and later and later. Even the games, for example, that Ireland played early in the month, way too late in the season. It's just, you have to respect the players, or you know, you're going to go into, you're going to see teams like Man City and Chelsea going in with loads of injuries early on next season because players' bodies are just not up to that fight. Now, don't get me wrong, I see Instagram and players are out training every day. That's the way it should be when you're professional. That's the way it should be. Everybody needs to be doing a little bit of training to keep that body moving and not losing muscle or energy or lung capacity, for that matter. It's not like the old days where players went off and got pissed for 2 months when the season ended and then went back to pre-season a stone overweight and spent the whole of pre-season working on getting that stone off to start the season. The game is faster. It's quicker. There's more games. There's a whole lot of things to consider. So it needs to be disciplined, but discipline as in a half an hour's training every day or full training every day followed by competition in between. It's going to leave a lot of sore bodies, I believe, by the start of the season.
and kicks and knocks and temperature differences and, you know, whatever about the guys that are training away, they're training in temperature controlled rooms and gyms and stuff like that, 90 their home gyms, you know, these guys are playing 90 minutes out in searing heat at times in over there. Look, it will definitely have a knock-on effect. And, you know, it's one of the reasons why, you know, we talk about Villa have remember when we did the schedule release, Paddy, and we were kind of going, oh yeah, Villa have, you know, statistically Villa have one of the easier run-ins. I would have nearly preferred to have all the big teams, all the teams that are in it, the Chelsea, like every single team that's in the Club World Cup, have them in the first 3 weeks and see what they bring to the table, you know, and get them then as opposed to getting them in December when, you know, they're going to have big enough squads, so they're going to be able to rotate. Like, is anybody really telling me Chelsea aren't going to be able to put out players, you know, and stuff like that to try and manage the squads and minutes and stuff like that? But I do think I agree with you, Paddy. I do think teams are going to take time to warm up at the start of the season, and it's unsustainable because, as you say, these players will have to have at least 2 weeks off. And then that brings them more or less right up to the start of the Premier League season. But do the clubs get their pre-season work done now? And is it just maintenance then for 2 weeks while they're off? You know, do they trust the players to maintain then for 2 weeks while they're off? So it's going to be an interesting study. And I suppose realistically, the answer is here, we don't know what's going to happen. Will they lose all their sharpened edges by the time they come back and play in the Premier League, and will other teams have a jump at them? So it's going to be interesting as well. And plus, also, we're talking about if these teams get to the final, you know, if they get knocked out in the quarterfinals, well, then they're home 2 weeks earlier, and it doesn't really, like, they get their 2 weeks break, and then they're back probably a week before the start of the Premier League, and I think that's probably fine for a lot of the more experienced players in those teams, and it won't have any effect on them. But we shall see. We shall see. Any more questions here on Twitter that I need to go through first? A couple of people asked, Paddy, what is your who's your favorite ref? I know you've answered this before, and then he went in. I think you said it was Anthony Taylor, and then he had a fucking shocker against Villa, and then you basically said you don't have a favorite. But is that the same? Who's your favorite ref in world football?
100% the same. I don't have a favourite ref in world football, world rugby, anything. They're all, at this stage, they all want to be famous and they do what they're told. And that's the way it is. We've seen Simon Hooper was my favourite referee in the Championship. And we saw when he took the step up to the Premier League, he just morphed into one of the others. Unapproachable, can't talk to them. Absolute shit show. And as I sent to you earlier on today, they're following me around. My team here in Ireland got Champions League qualification to play a team against Northern Ireland, and we get a team from PGMOL over to referee the match. Unbelievable stuff. Just not what I needed. When I'm trying to take a break from worrying about Aston Villa and PGMOL, they're going to be right in my eye line during that Champions League game.
And that's in a week's time as well, isn't
it? 10 days to the first leg.
Yeah, first leg, yeah. Exactly.
Interesting.
It will be. Exactly. Let's come to some of the comments here, some of the questions. I've been trying to start questions. I've seen them in the comments, guys. Apologies if I've missed any of them. I'm going to come to, I'm not going to do them in linear order. Mark Wood asks, and do you know what? Do you know what I've noticed in Streamyard here? What's happened recently is they used to give us your names before. Now they give us your ats on YouTube. So, yeah. I feel like I have to get to know you guys all over again, but I know Mark well enough. And he asks, Paddy, what pub is the first pub we're going to buy Mark a drink in when he comes to Galway in 20 days' time? I'm going to take that one. We'll take you. Well, when I get there, I'm going to force. Remember,
he's a staunch Guinness drinker. It has to be the best Guinness house in Galway.
Yeah, that's absolutely no problem. That's no problem. You're spoiled for choice. You know, if you're up in Ayr Square first anyway, because I think you're staying up around there, into O'Connell's. Like just like rip off the band-aid, go in there. You will have a treat on your taste buds going into O'Connell's. come away down, going to Teen Octons. Then if you go across the river, which you will have to over towards the cathedral, where would you be going that side? You go down into McGing's. I haven't had a pint to McGing's for a while. I must go down there, maybe in there, but you'll be spoiled for choice, Mark. Don't you worry. It'll be a lot better outside the venue than it is inside the venue when we're watching Dick Pierce. Anyway, that is for sure. That is for sure. Stephen Perry asks, will Tielemans stay, Paddy?
Don't see any reason why not.
Me as well. Even it's been a long day for me today. But yeah, I think that's an easy one to answer. I don't see him going. Roger asks, would you take Grealish back this summer?
Next.
Paddy's going to be in low. Paddy's on record and saying in this podcast that Grealish is dead to him previously. So, well, I think that's probably
the only thing when you come back and dive against Villa. I think that wipes you out of my brain anyway. I don't see any way, considering the restraints we're under with wages, that we're able to compete with his wages. And does he make us any stronger? Debatable. Probably a little bit stronger. Does he fit into our system at the expense of who? Morgan Rogers? I don't think that would be a good move. We've got a good young player there ready to take on the world. So leave him where he is. I just can't see how it happens. Either now or towards the end of his career, because towards the end of his career, I would hope that we've pushed on a little bit more and we're competing higher up the league. So no, I just don't see it. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It could very well happen, but I don't see it at all.
Stephen Perry also asks about Watkins. What are the chances of him going? Do you think, Paddy? I don't think I've spoken to you about that. You might have mentioned it at the start, but I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, well, I think he's one that could be replaceable, and not that I want to sell him, because obviously he's the best striker we've had consistently over the last 5 years. He's got a little bit short of the numbers I want, but you'd have to say he's been worth his salt. But I think at this stage, if Arsenal were to come in and offer silly money, it wouldn't be refused at his age. That's just my opinion on it. That does not mean I want to sell Ollie Watkins. I think we need to keep the nucleus of what's there. There are disposable players there, I believe. Ollie Watkins is not one of them. But just the fact with everything else that's going on, if the offer was too big, they're not going to turn it down.
I can't see him going because I just don't think there's a buyer there for him that's willing to spend the money, and I think he wants to stay in the Premier League. So that's another thing as well. Because I think it was the whole Arsenal thing. I think Arsenal are big in Guercas, or they're in Ancesco, one or the other. I just think the teams will have looked in other directions, and I don't think that there will be a plethora of phone calls that will match. And to be honest with you, I know a lot of people saying 50 million for Watkins. I think the club are going to look for 60, 70 million for him, because they know that there's a lack of consistent strikers. And as you said, look, he hasn't met the numbers I wanted him to meet either. I want him to be a 20-goal striker in the season, and he hasn't been that. But, as I say, I am still the conductor of the Ollie Watkins bus. Like, put it this way, if we sold Emi Martinez and Ollie Watkins in the one season, I'd have to pick up a placard and march upon Villa Park, like. And the thing is, for me, I don't think either of them are going this season. I don't think I said it previously. I said it in Claret and Blue just after the last game of the season. I said I could see something like Emi Martinez or Ollie Watkins popping into the Villa podcast unannounced, and just gets splashed up going. He's kind of saying, I'm not going anywhere this season, and then the other one of them sign in. Maybe that's a Martinez one, and then Watkins then comes out and signs a new contract or something along those lines. I could see that happening the closer we get to the season. Because of the PR it will be brilliant, and I think the club will play the PR game with both of those, and they probably should as well from a global point of view, because they're global names nearly at this stage, for what they've done for the club. Another Guinness question, Paddy, and I actually don't know. I don't know the answer to this, because my answer would be You know, stay away from Temple Bar. It's a trap anyway, number one. But user PR51.
In no particular order, user. Instead of turning into Temple Bar, hang a left, and you've got Bowes of Fleet Street, and you've got Mulligan's of Poolbeg Street.
Mulligan's.
And if you're a little bit further down, get yourself to the Gravediggers on the north side of the city. Probably the best pint of Guinness in the world. But just my opinion. People will have other options, but in no particular order, there's 3 pubs in Dublin.
Yeah, Tom Collins is in Limerick would hold a point up against anybody in the world, I think, as well. But the biggest problem there is you has to be drinking the snug for it to be the best point in Limerick, but you can never get into the snug. And Tom Collins is, unless you're there like 20 minutes before it opens and you burrow in under the ground. Would you believe, Neil? We found a better one in Limerick.
JJ Bowles. It used to be called Portleys.
I know Portleys. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Half and Half now because it's famous for giving you a half cold point and a half normal temperature point. But it's owned by a Villa fan. There's a Villa scarf up over the door when we went in. So there you are. So there's a Villa owned pub in Limerick called Half and Half. Great point of Guinness.
Excellent. Great point of Guinness.
Mark Wood will attest it because I brought him there the last time he was here. Without knowing it was a Villa fan that owns.
Paddy, what do you make of Harvey Elliott? Philly D says, or asks.
My honest opinion is I don't know whether we have the funds to fund what they're going to ask for him. Would I take him? I think he would fit our system. I think he solves that problem out on the right-hand side. And I would have him. But at this moment in time, I don't know if we have that kind of money to spend. But he would be a proven Premier League player. A little bit concerned about injuries. But yes, I would have him.
John Steele is saying that Black Swan and Anacati. I lived around the corner from the Black Swan. I drank the best of Guinness in the Black Swan. You are right. You absolutely are right. I put down 4. I put down a good 3.5 years of drinking the Nicholas's Guinness inside there. And it was lovely stuff.
Adam says great technically, but a bit slow for me. I think in that part of the pitch, we don't need that bursting amount of speed. We have Rodgers to do that job. We have Ramsey to do that job. He's a little bit slower, but absolutely fine player. Bear in mind that we spent 70% of our games last year needing technically gifted players to unlock defences and play through balls and get past a low block with near enough everybody. So not worried about his lack of pace at all.
Yeah, I want pace though. I want pace because we just don't have
nice, yeah.
Like speed kills. Like that's my what happened there.
Desi Farrell just resigned from his job.
Okay. Breaking news here for any GAF, Dublin GAF fans. Desi Farrell. Paddy said you're probably going to see less of Paddy now because he's going to put his name in the ring for the Dublin GA manager job after this. Yeah, look, I think I want pace up top. I think you look at any of the, like, unless we're going to go and become a 100%, and I mean ponderous in a good way, like a Pep Guardiola team. I think Unai needs to have pace in the team. I think that's what made us so good with Bailey being there. I think his pace kept fullbacks honest. Now, you're right in Morgan Rodgers. I think Morgan Rodgers is more built-up speed, that he doesn't start off quickly. But to change to flip the field, so to say, I'd like us to have a bit of pace up there. I'd like us to go for somebody with exceptional pace up there. But look, as you say, pace doesn't break down a low block. It doesn't break down. Well, it does break down a mid block, but not a low block. And that's where we really got stifled against teams we should have been putting to bed. So probably I've said we needed two in that area, and I think we need another striker. So get one with pace and get one with magic feet, and we'll see what happens after that. And then bring me a striker that's going to get 8 to 10 goals as well as Ollie Watkins understudy, and then Watkins going to hit the 20 goals, and we'll be all here laughing next season again. Michael Huggins asks, are we planning a live show for the new season, Paddy? We are, is the answer.
We are planning something in the planning stage.
We also planned three of them for this year, and I don't think I remember any of them happening. So, but we are planning one for this year.
Well, we did try. We have audio and visual proof of Conor Horahan saying he would come to Ireland and do a show. That may happen. Well, there's less chance of it happening now that he's the manager of Barnsley. But we'll get on to our good friend Dan Bardell and see if we can sort that out. But there is something in the pipeline, and as soon as we have information and a few names booked, we'll get back in touch and let you know.
And that will be happening sooner rather than later. If we do get that locked down, like there'll be a long runway to that because it'd just be nice to have that.
Yeah, but the one that's in the planning, let's say that me and you're in the planning of, is in Ireland. It's not in the UK. So we'll see what happens. We'll keep you posted.
Absolutely. And also, there's another little project that's bubbling under the surface, where we want to honor a player that we don't forget in Aston Villa circles, but I feel is forgotten an awful lot in Irish football. And if I can ever get that project off the ground, I'll probably cancel the podcast afterwards because it would be life made afterwards. You know, I think it would be because it would be great, but obviously I wouldn't cancel the podcast. But you know what I mean. So if that ever gets off the ground as well, we'll let you guys know about it because we would need. We would like you guys all to see it and maybe and see what the fruits of that labour would be. But it's been going on now for nearly about 10 months. We're trying to get this
we're locked up and down as well. So that's an additional one, two things that we're working on. Not as that one more a nice project rather than a big party and
it's more of a passion project or than a party or anything like that. Yeah. Paddy, this one. I'll let you because I fired off a tweet on this when I saw it last night and but Big Matthew says with football becoming more American with the halftime interviews, sub interviews next season, are we ready for players coming out with the WWE style 1-on-1 team songs pre-game? Talk to me about the interviews of players coming off the field. I'll elaborate on my piece afterwards.
Did it just on that final point of the WWE players coming out? Am I correct in saying that this bloody bullshit invitational tournament did that with the players? Because I read it and I went, that didn't happen. It did happen, did it?
I actually don't mind it in that tournament because it's given the likes of Auckland FC, it's given the likes of Ulster and or the Urwa Red Wings. It's given all these teams from less prestigious leagues or whatever like that are coming over. It's giving them bit of airtime, and also then if they go on to play well. And one thing actually on the Club World Cup is that I think we'll see quite a few players move from teams that are there into the top 5 leagues in Europe, on account of this, the highlight of this world, just like it would happen in a normal World Cup. I think that will happen. So there will be underlying positives from it, but you know, it's the fact that there's nobody in the stadia and the fact that DAZN paid $1 billion to air it on TV, and to be honest with you, not a whole pile of people here are watching it. You know, you have to. It just reeks of money grab / corruption, really, in a lot of ways. But we'll stay away from that word, because that's gotten us in trouble in YouTube before. Anyway, Paddy, talk to us about what was that one? What was the talk to us about the interviews for people coming up.
I have absolutely no interest in listening to what Morgan Rogers has to say if he's taken off the pitch, or Ollie Watkins, and I can assure you that no Premier League player or any self-respecting player will want a microphone in his face when he comes off the pitch. The only place that they would want to see a microphone put in the face like that after coming off is if you've just scored a hat-trick and had a round of applause from the whole crowd as you walked off the pitch. That is the only way I can see someone being happy about that. There's no place for it. It gives an opportunity for someone to say the wrong thing and be salty in an interview. So I'm not for that at all. The one thing they're forgetting here, the one person that needs to be interviewed and accountable for their mistakes is the gobshite in the middle with the whistle who gets away with murder. they're never asked what their opinion is and why they made certain decisions. So it should be them that's interviewed, not this opportunity of putting a camera in a little box in the corner to talk to whatever greedy six player they want to blow smoke up the ass of, because that's probably what they'll end up doing with it once they have the license to do it. So it's not for me. It's definitely not for any of our players. And I assure you, I speak for 100% of our players. Nobody wants to be interviewed when they're taken off the pitch.
I couldn't care less what a player has to say after he's come off when he can't affect the game. I do think that managers...
Yeah, but it creates a sideshow, which we don't need any more sideshows than we already have. So there's no place for it. I just don't get it.
My thoughts on it are, I don't care what a player has to say when he comes off the field. You should have done your talking when you were on the field. And yes, you could take somebody off who's after scoring a hat-trick and he's after being coming off to adulation, but you know you're going to get canned responses there. What they want here is the negative reaction of a player, someone to go full hatchet on a referee or on the fella he was marking and just say, fuck this for a game of soldiers, that guy out there, or his manager, or someone like that. That's what this... People will be professional enough, but we remember Morgan Rogers coming off and booting a bottle and being hot-headed. Remember Emi Buendia coming off and being hot-headed at times. Remember Ross Barkley taking forever to walk around the pitch. Actually, if I was a player, that's what I'd do. I get off the other side of the pitch and take forever to walk all the way around, so I didn't get the microphone stuck in my face, But I don't care what a player who's been taken off has to say, just like I don't care about players' conversations after the match, because they're canned, they're scripted, and they don't really mean anything. Managers, on the other hand, I do care, because players will always be thinking I could have done more on the field if they're dejected afterwards, and they're never really going to say anything about a referee. But sometimes managers have that more leeway, to get, you will get more of a response from a manager after a game. You really will. And so I don't mind managers being interviewed after the game. It's the World Cup is in America next year. This happens when players are on the bench, when players are being subbed in and subbed out for 10, 15-minute breaks and stuff like that in basketball, whatever. It happens in American sports. This is to raise the profile of the game in America. This is coming in, and that's fine. I don't have any problem from that point of view. I just don't care about it. It's not going to affect me whether it happens or not. I just think it's needless. And I think I think we are getting to the day whereby this will go to... Like Sky Sports will have to bring something like this in, because if streaming services start to get traction with NFL and with stuff like that and start bidding on this, they will have options where you can turn off stuff like that. Streaming services will have, just like you can turn off closed captions and stuff. You will be able to turn off inbox pop-ups and stuff like that. And I think people will be able to tailor what they want from their production themselves within the next 5 years. I definitely see that on broadcast. So bring it in now, and then I bet you we'll be able to turn it off afterwards in the next couple of years. But for me, it doesn't really matter. I don't really care. I'm not interested in it. It's just going to be, as you say, it's just something like, I don't mind being the guy who's like, get off my lawn, in that aspect, and being old and curmudgeon about it, because it doesn't affect anything that happens in the game of football. Again, Paddy, it's another thing that doesn't affect anything that happens in the game of football. Where else are we? Any more comments there? Oh, thank you so much, Michael Huggins. Michael Huggins said, Neil's holiday fund is you've been working non-stop and I don't want you to burn yourself out. Well, Michael, now that you mention it, I'm going away for 2 weeks I'm going away for a week at the end of July, and then I'm going away for 2 weeks at the start of September. So I'm finally getting to go on my honeymoon at the start of September. So my holiday has been booked, and you will probably see very little of me for those 2 weeks in September. So And
the bad part of that is, if I get my way, I'll be away one of those weeks as well. So the podcast could be quiet for a week.
Yeah, it'll be fine. We'll work something out. And Jamie Toohey, my bedmate, literally, he slept in the bottom bunk. I slept in the top bunk for that Chelsea game, or that Celtic game, should I say? Good to see you. Thanks a million for becoming a member, Jamie, as well. And where else are we? John Steele says, do a live show. I presume that isn't Dolan's. My band will play afterwards free of charge. How many points have I had? Genuine offer, all the same. You know what? You don't know how close we came to having one in Dolan's. You don't know how close we came. We literally came as close to I had stuff ready to print. Never mind. Like I had actual physical posters ready to be printed, and then it just we couldn't get the guest over the line. But keep an eye out for something like that now soon. Yeah, hopefully. One here as well is do you think Asensio signs once June passes, Paddy?
Yes. I think we sign Asensio on a year-long loan with an obligation to buy. I think that's how it'll pan out. So we kick it down the road, and we pay his wages for this year, pay 15 million for him next June, and he'll be our player for the next 3 or 4 years, I'd say.
Let me see there, because is Marco Asensio not out of contract? He's out of contract on the 30th of June 2026. So I bet you they will, like, we just pay his wages for the year, and then he'll be free contract. Yeah. Potentially.
Fair enough.
I think I'm lagging here on my side. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like he's asking the question, do we think he signs? It's not the question, do you want him? It's the question, do we think he signs? And I think he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I suppose to answer the question, do we want him? I think I do want him.
I think so too.
Duncan Taylor, I'm going to take this one. Question for you, gents. I'm reading our wages with 90% of our revenue last season, which is an issue. Do you know if that included Asensio and Rashford's salary? So the 96% wage to revenue ratio was for 2023-2024. That's anywhere I've read it was for 2023-2024. So we don't know what the escalators were for Champions League for the current players that we have, or what Asensio and Rashford's percentages of salaries were. But my thinking is that if wages were I think they were 256 million the year before, even if it goes up to like 275 million, our revenue has risen by more than what our wages rose by. So by dint of our revenue being higher, even if our wages are higher, our squad cost ratio will come down.
You'd imagine so. Yeah.
And once again, I barely know how much money I have in my pocket, so I'm not very good on the finances things. So I just sometimes, as I said, as Rick Leong will tell you, I am the blind squirrel who finds a nut every so often. So that's what I'm sticking with here. Where else are we? Do we have anything else here? No, I don't think we have any more questions. Oh, there's one question here. I'll go one about. There's a question here about Carney Chukwuemeka. Would you take him back?
No.
Answered. And I think I'm the same. Yeah, I'm the same.
No interest in him whatsoever. If a few people have messaged me here about this T-shirt, Neil. This is packed of the new DNA range. The quality of them is absolutely phenomenal. If you're interested in getting one, get one, because I can't get over how far we've come with the quality of stuff we've had from our Macron and Kappa days up until putting this on for the first time today. Beautiful, beautiful T-shirt. Everything we've had from Adidas has been absolutely incredible quality. So if you're thinking of getting one, get one. And if you're in Ireland and you're getting one, don't tell the club I said this, but go to JD Sports because you won't have to pay the import duty.
Yeah, we won't have to pay the Brexit tax, as we call it over here, because it can be like 10% or nearly 12%. So I want to give a shout out to somebody. I got this wonderful painting of Mr. Paul McGrath, and the person who sent it to me got it signed by the big man. Yeah, so Stuart Ryan painted that. That's a print of one of his paintings he did in 2023, and sent it to me. So I was really over the moon. So that which I thought was incredible. So reached out to me, not even a Villa fan, but does a lot of stuff with the I think it's the Daddy Weir Foundation as well. A lot of paintings for him, sells a lot of stuff for him. But I just said I'd give him a shout out and find his stuff online and link it on Twitter. But you know, when someone does something nice for you like that, and he's not even a Villa fan, came across the podcast, watched our live show, and because he was looking at Paul McGrath stuff, had one of these prints that was signed. He didn't need it himself. He reached out to me and asked me if I wanted it, and it's now in a frame and it's going to go up on the wall. So Excellent stuff. And you actually also sent me this framed print of, not signed, framed print of Ollie Watkins as well. So, a sound man is Stuart Ryan. Sound man.
While you're mentioning sound men, our good friend Vinny Kahuna Gaming in the comments sent us one of these too, which I haven't got into a frame yet, but it's absolutely lovely painted. All there ready to go.
A frame yet either. I'm running out of wall space. I'm running out of wall space, and I did put pictures of my kids up here as well. So take down the pictures of the kids. Do they really mean that much? I don't know. I'll have to sleep on that one tonight. Right, excellent. I think, look, we're going to leave it at that, guys. And I like doing this podcast. I like this Q&A. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. You know, we had no script coming into this. It's great to have you back on, Paddy. It's been weeks, really. It's been bones of a month since you've basically been on. But thanks to everybody. Thanks to you, Paddy. And we're going to get Jay on as well, and maybe do a three-handed podcast maybe in the next week or so. Also, the podcast that I teased, the interesting podcast that I think you guys will find interesting, is going to be happening this Wednesday coming. It's going to be pre-recorded, and I'm going to put it out afterwards. But it's with a former Aston Villa youth player that I'm interviewing, and I've got a lot of questions about. Like he's an Irish former Aston Villa youth player, and it's going to try and do a series on following maybe Irish players. What? You're giving too much away. yeah, but just there's. Hopefully, I'm hoping to do a couple of these interviews with former youth players over the next, and maybe former Irish players over the coming season. So just like a spotlight on the Irish at Villa thing, you know. So keep tuned out, and that will be out next Wednesday. Will be out for sure next Wednesday. So and
we will do our phone in. That's coming down the line, and
fucking forgot about that.
I wonder will somebody else have a phone in set up before you do it?
well, I'm hoping to do my phone in on Monday, so keep an eye out on socials for that, and it'll be a bit of crack if nothing else. Yeah, be nice. Right, go and leave it at that. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks a million, Paddy. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys are watching the under-21 game. I don't know what the score is. I think somebody said Harvey Elliott scored. But whoever you want to win that game, I hope wins that game. And we will be back on Monday. So until then, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy. And all I have to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.